Welcome to r/malicious compliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter but not the spirit of request. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. Roommates tell me to take all my stuff out of the living room. I did exactly what they asked. The second story. Agent said I was incompetent and lying that he was missing training. The third story. Manager didn't want to do his job. And the first story is, you want me to move everything? I'm a freshman in college. The apartment I live in on campus is set up where there's a small common living room with a connected kitchen to the left and 3 bedrooms, a large one and a small one on the longer wall of the living room that faces the front door, and another smaller bedroom to the right of the living room, along with the shared bathroom. I share this dorm with 3 girls, who I'll refer to as A, B, and C. A and C share the large bedroom. B has the small room next to A and C's room to themselves, and I have the other small bedroom to myself. My bedroom's door has a habit of locking itself when you close it, a detail that comes into play later. Also, the only furniture that was provided by the campus was our beds, the stove, microwave, and counters in the kitchen, the shower, sink and toilet in the bathroom, and a desk, chair, dresser, and lockable cabinet for each student in their bedroom. So anything else we wanted in the apartment we had to bring ourselves. The way it worked out was I brought most of this stuff into the living room and kitchen. Remember this, it'll also be important later. I brought the fridge, the TV stand, Xbox, and both the couch and love seat myself. B brought a coffee maker and toaster, and C brought a DVD player. B is a pretty cool roommate, but she's a double major, so she isn't around the dorm all that much. It did not take long for the issues with the other roommates to begin though. C, A, and C, along with constantly inviting people over without asking me and B if it's okay, have a habit of touching any stuff that's left in the living room unattended and just throwing it into my room without asking, even if I'm just in the bathroom for a couple of minutes. I let it slide the first couple times because it had been nothing major. Just a pair of shoes here and there, maybe a jacket I had left draped over the back of the couch for a moment. But then one day, A literally threw my open laptop into my bedroom while I was grabbing my laundry from the laundry room 2 doors down the hall. I know she had thrown it because she did it right as I walked in the door. Luckily, my laptop wasn't damaged, but that was strike 1. Strike 2 came just a couple days later, when A and C had invited a bunch of people over for a movie night, and thrown my phone, keys, and backpack into my room before shutting my door. My door that locks itself when you close it. The door that only I had a key to, which is now inside the room where it can't help me. I had to call one of the RAs for our floor to open it, and got fined $50 because of that. Now, you might be saying, but maybe your roommates didn't know your door would do that. But they did, because A had been the one who had figured out the reason I did that in the first place. Also, my phone's screen cracked when they threw it, but it still works fine, and I don't have the money to replace it, partly due to me having to pay the fine. The final strike came a week ago. 3 times a week I have a 7 a.m. lecture, so I need to wake up super early. About midnight the night before I have that lecture, A and C come into my room and wake me up, to ask me to move my stuff out of the living room. The only time they've ever asked me to move stuff and not just throw it into my room. I walk out, expecting to find I'd left my backpack on the couch, or something important like that. But instead, A points to my tennis shoes next to the front door, which are also next to 3 pairs of her shoes, and 4 pairs of C's. They both then proceed to have the nerve to say something about me needing to keep all my stuff in my room, which is when I got my idea. The conversation went something like this. C, you know, you should really just put all your stuff into your room. A, yeah, you should really keep all of it in your bedroom. Me, really? All my stuff? C, yes, all your stuff. It's at this point I start recording the conversation on my phone. Me, so you 2 are saying that I should move all of my property into my bedroom? A, yes, move all your stuff into your room. Me, alright, whatever you say. I go back to bed and go to my lecture the next morning. By the time I get back to the apartment, it's 11 a.m. and A and C are going to be at classes for at least 4 more hours. That's when I get to work. I call some of my friends from the fine arts department. I'm a theater major, and we proceed to move everything I brought into my room. I text B to let her know what's going on, and she asks me to move her stuff into her room too, and asks if we can put the love seat in her room, a request I gladly fulfill, because I honestly wasn't sure how we were going to fit both it and the couch in my small room. So by the time we're finished moving everything, the only thing in the living room is C's DVD player on the floor, and a couple coolers in the kitchen full of A and C's food, which we had taken out of the fridge, because it isn't mine or B's food. Obviously, A and C were not happy when they got home, and immediately went and got one of the RAs. When the RA asked me why I did everything I did, I immediately pulled up the recording of the previous night's conversation, and then showed her where on all the things I moved it said that it was my or B's property. Once the RA saw and heard all this, she turned to my roommates and shrugged, telling them that she couldn't do anything because I had only moved my stuff into my room, as they had requested, and if they wanted it all back, they should either apologize or buy their own stuff. It's been a week and I haven't gotten any form of apology, nor have they brought anything. They also can't get any of their friends to come over because there isn't anything to do here now. On the plus side, I can play video games and watch TV in my room, and there's room for my stuff in the fridge now. The second story is, you want me to check with the state regulating body? Okay. A few years ago, I worked for an international insurance company, ABC Company, to verify the license and training of agents looking to sell policies. Each state is allowed to dictate what licenses and training an agent must have before they're allowed to sell a policy, and of course, each state can be completely different. This means that what is acceptable in one state may not be acceptable in the state right next to it. This is important. So we have an agent who goes ahead and offers a policy to a client before they check to make sure they have everything they need to be compliant in that state. This happens a lot because it's not easy trying to remember which state requires what, and it does change from time to time. Not a problem, this can be fixed. So we call and email the agent to let them know which training they're missing, where they can take it, and to let us know once it's completed so that we can finish processing the policy. Of course, none of this is okay, and I end up getting the call from the agent. Jerkface, JF for the agent, and me for me. Me, this is ABC Company, how can I help you? JF, you stopped a policy for training that I clearly have already taken. Just to be sure you see it, I sent it back to you in a reply to your email. Me, I see that. Unfortunately, the training that you already have isn't acceptable for policies that are sold in-state, TT. However, you can easily take the required training on... JF, what do you mean? I sold a policy last month and my training was fine. Me, the policy was sold in state RR, where your current training is acceptable, but state TT has different requirements for the policy you're selling. This leads to a long back and forth where I tell him what training he needs, and he thinks I'm lying and incompetent. I even go so far as to show him on the TT Department of Insurance, DI website, where it lists what training is required to sell this policy. Still, the agent lets me know what a disgrace I am to my company, family, and the world at large. JF, I can't believe this. I want you to send my training to the DI, and that way they'll verify that my training is fine. Then we can get this over with and I can move on to my super important stuff that I should be doing right now. Okay, at this point I was done with this agent and his attitude. Now, I've been in this job long enough to know that if I send this in and ask if it meets TT's exacting requirements, it'll trigger an audit of the agent's full training history, and that will include continuing education for that state. Pretty much the state puts on their surgical gloves, digs deep, and will fine the agent for anything that's missing. So I follow the agent's instructions and send the training off to state TT for review. I advise the agent that this can take time, and I'll let them know as soon as I hear back. 2 weeks pass, in which time the agents keep calling and asking us to tell the state to hurry up with their review. Sir, you unknowingly just sent the state to do a prostate exam on your insurance license. They want to make sure that they didn't miss anything. Soon the agent goes ahead and takes the required training so that he can finally get paid for the policy he sold. And then I'm sure promptly forgets about the training review he requested that I send in. After another month, I finally get a reply from TT Department of Insurance. They advised that not only was the agent missing training in several previous licensing periods, but the state is also fining the agent $5,000 to $10,000 for those missing trainings. Oh, the state also wants this taken care of yesterday, or they'll start issuing additional penalties. I admit that I had a huge smile on my face as I forwarded that email to Jerkface. Sadly, I don't know how he took it, because we never heard from him again. The last story is Kanyes Rails. I worked in a loading dock for a department store, and it was dank in there, in the dungeon sense of the word. All rat traps and strip lighting. The floor would be filthy the day after you cleaned it, just from the dust off the boxes in stock. The manager of the clothing section, let's call him Kanye, was a very bad man. He would bully the employees who spoke English as a second language, and they would come down to the dock to escape him/cry. This would happen weekly. He had a friend in the HR department and hung out with the store manager on the weekends, so no matter what heat was thrown his way, he would always escape it. One day I was busy putting excess stock back onto a truck. I find a couple of clothing rails that have not been cling wrapped. Now, if these clothes are ever going to be in sellable condition ever again, they need to be wrapped, and this is obvious to anyone with a working set of eyes that aren't located way up their own a-hole. So I waste the truck driver's time wrapping them myself. When he leaves, I call up Kanye and let him know that his staff needs to wrap the rails, which they all do. Strife ensues. K, I've never heard that we have to wrap the rails if we're sending them back. That's ridiculous. Me, it's how it's always been done. If not, the stock will be impossible to sell. Kanye, It's excess stock, we're not selling it. If you're so precious about it, you can wrap it yourself. Me. It's not my job to wrap stock from another department, and I don't have the time to. Also, we might not be selling it, but it may be transferred to another store. Kanye. Well, I've never heard of this, so I'm going to contact the warehouse and see if you're not just making stuff up. I don't get it. We're not even selling it anyway. 20 minutes pass, and he calls up and tells me that he spoke to the warehouse supervisor. We in fact don't have to wrap the rails. I'm perplexed, so in my break I call up myself. The warehouse supervisor has not received a call from anyone from our store. The first act of malicious compliance begins now. To the next truck driver's amusement, I fill his vehicle with rails of clothes cling wrap free. Some clothes fall on the ground and are immediately filthy. Side note, this department store also does not wash dirty clothing stock, much to my chagrin. Anyway, truck leaves, and sure enough I get a furious call from the supervisor. I tell him the situation, but he's still angry at me for not covering for Kanye. I take it on the chin, add forward his complaint on. This dilutes itself into a small, timid note that Kanye reads at the end of the day, instructing his team to wrap their clothing rails. They all do. He's the one who didn't. The week following, Kanye has left 15 rails unwrapped in the dock. I give him a call about it, and he screams and swears at me, explaining how extremely busy he is. He takes 2-hour lunch breaks, and that I should do something for once and wrap them myself. All I can do is wrap the rails, and luckily the truck driver at the time was chill, and he helped me out. However, these rails are given the premium service, and are wrapped so tight that sunlight will never touch the contents within. Kanye appears in the elevator suddenly, but luckily he doesn't even know how to wrap a rail, so he thinks we're just doing a regular job of it. He grumbles finally, and pushes an unwrapped rail out of the elevator. It rolls slowly across the dock floor towards us and he's gone. That one was wrapped the most. I get a call from a most livid warehouse supervisor, and I tell him that I had to wrap the rails, because the same guy refuses to do it. Now he's savvy to the situation, and he calls Kanye directly. He reams him for making the dock staff do the job of another department, and wasting time, and he explains that he's sending the stock back to be rewrapped. The truck arrives, Kanye pulls out the first rail, and slashes at the cling wrap like an angry 12-year-old boy. He manages to slice a $150 dress up in the process. Sad ending, but he made his staff rewrap the rails, and still doesn't know how. I hope you enjoyed these stories, and if you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.